Hello everyone, I'm ThomasWoodenRailway and I want to welcome you to my second question and answer video where you, the fans, send in some questions and then I make a video about them and you guys will hopefully get to learn something about me that you guys didn't already know. So it's been about 4 years since I did my last Q&A. I really enjoy doing these videos. As you guys can tell, this is supposed to be really laid back. I've only glanced at the questions to make sure that there's something I want to answer. I don't really have prepared statements in mind. And so I have about 25 questions that I want to answer. So this will probably be a really long video, but if you guys don't mind that, you can sit back, relax, grab something to eat or drink, and just kind of enjoy the answers that I'm about to give you. So I suppose we'll get started. The first question that I'm going to answer is a pretty general one that I get a lot, and essentially it's just asking what are your top 5 or top 10 favorite engines, and I actually had a couple of users ask that question. So I do enjoy the character that you are looking at right now. I've always enjoyed Thomas. I know some people don't like him because he's become, you know, the one star of the show and kind of gets a lot of airtime, but I really do enjoy Thomas's personality where, you know, sometimes he can be a bit boastful, but then, you know, an incident or something like that will occur and it'll immediately knock him down to size and he'll kind of learn his lesson. So I've always enjoyed Thomas. Probably the most consistent character that I've liked for a long time, even dating back to when I was a child, was Edward. I have a fond spot for the older engines who are wise and always give good advice, and you know, they practice what they preach, and Edward's definitely an example of that. I've always enjoyed Duck as well. It's really interesting. A couple months ago on Twitter, there was a quiz going around where basically, you know, you go online, you take this quiz, and then the answers that you get determine, I guess, you become closely related to a character. It tells you what Thomas and Friends character you are. And based on my answers, I actually got Duck, which I think is pretty accurate, I would say. So I've always liked Duck. I've liked Oliver as well. Oliver's kind of a Thomas type character, you know, where he's smart, but then he kind of gets a little bit boastful. And like I said, something happens and he'll get knocked back down to size. And another consistent character I've always enjoyed is Boko. For sure. And I would even say I like Skarloey, Rheneas, and Duke as well. As you can tell, I like the older engines, the wiser engines who give good advice, you know, and kind of stay out of trouble, but at the same time, you know, they're not totally immune to everything out there. For example, you know, Edward and Duck and Oliver have all been in accidents and such. They're not perfect by any means, but I really enjoy their personalities. So that's the first question, and let's move on to the next one. Alright, so our next question comes from Chris, and he asks, which project did you have the most fun on, and which one do you watch over and over? Well, I honestly don't really watch any of my videos over because you kind of get tired of them when you're editing them and stuff, and you know, you remember what happened. So I don't ever really feel the need to go back and watch my videos again. Maybe I'll do that one day, you know, a couple years down the road, and just I can see the progression of where my episodes and other videos have gone. But the project I had the most fun on for sure was Claw of the Law, which was a movie I released about over a year ago. And I had never done a video of that size before. It ended up being about 100 and, or sorry, not 100, but an hour and 20 minutes. So it was definitely the longest video I'd ever done up to that point. And sometimes I felt overwhelmed by what I was doing, but at the same time, I knew it was going to turn out good. And based on your guys' reaction, that appears to be the case. So I guess my answer to those questions would be the most project I've had, or the most fun I've had on a project would be Claw of the Law, and I don't really watch one over and over, but I would have to say if I were to go back and watch a video again, it probably would be Claw of the Law, or one of my longer videos such as Oliver's 11 or Soder's Last Stand or something like that, because honestly, so many things happen in those long videos that it is hard to keep track of. So, great question, Chris. Thanks for asking, and let's move on to the next one. All right, next question comes from Sergeant Pig, and he asks, what do you think about having ARC recreate some classic trio stories in CGI, such as the James trilogy or the Henry trilogy or the Duck and the Diesel arc? And this is actually a really interesting question. I think this stems from the fact that in the past, Hit Entertainment, Mattel, ARC, whoever's running the show nowadays, they've been willing to kind of go back to some Railway series plots that were originally done way back many decades ago in the TV series and kind of make them into what we would perceive the story to be in CGI form. And I guess the perfect example of that would be The Adventure Begins, which pretty much tells the beginning of the Railway series in CGI form. And my opinion on this, in the scheme of things, doesn't matter. I'm not an expert on this, but I guess I would say that I wouldn't mind it at all. I would actually be really interested to see the Duck and the Diesel arc. I think that could be really well done, but at the same time, there were some areas of The Adventure Begins where I wish they would have left stuff alone. And sometimes they try to make things too different, in order to differentiate between the original and then kind of this refreshed version. And so I feel like, I would love to see, Duck crashing into the barber shop in CGI, and I'd love to see Diesel and the freight cars going at it. So I would not be opposed to that one by any means. I guess by the Henry trilogy you mean, well, I guess I was going to say you can mean the Railway series, where he's stuck in the tunnel, but they've already done that. So I guess you mean where he gets special coal in the Flying Kipper. That would be really cool as well. And then the James trilogy, I know there are some stories about James later in the Railway series. I guess to summarize what I've just said, I wouldn't mind it for sure. And the way Andrew Brenner has taken the TV series recently, I have full faith in him and his staff that they'll do an excellent job, that they'll do a job worthy of the Reverend Audrey's praise, and that they won't mess anything up, because I guess that's the worst fear that we all have, is that they'll try to do something like this and they just won't do a very good job at it. So great question, thanks for asking, and let's move on to the next one. So the next question comes from a couple of users, and they both asked pretty much the same thing. They asked if I was going to do any more remakes. Now, I've explained this before, probably on my social media sites more than anything, but I really enjoyed doing remakes back in 2008 and 2009. Those videos really helped grow my channel, and I really liked doing them. They were a lot of fun. And in 2013, the summer of 2013, I was going to pretty much spend the entire summer doing remakes. I wanted to do a ton of remakes, as many as I could do. And unfortunately, I only got about 4 videos in before I was hit with some copyright stuff, and I actually had to leave YouTube for a little bit because I didn't want it to affect my channel. So I've been very leery since then to go down the remake path. I definitely want to do them again, however. I'm hoping, that was 3 years ago. I'm hoping since then that, some things have changed, and, I'm trying to figure out some ways that I can possibly get around those copyright issues if they arise again. So for sure, I definitely want to do more remakes. I had a ton of fun doing them, but this time if I were to do them, I'd want to do them, I would say, more professionally, I guess. The remakes that you guys have probably seen were all done on carpet, and I had the narration of the episode playing on my TV down here. It was very, very, I guess the word would be unprofessional. It was just me kind of dinking around with my toy trains, but if I were to do them again, I definitely want them to be as professional as possible. I would definitely take my time on them. I wouldn't want to rush through them just to say, oh, look, I'm doing remakes again. I definitely would want to take my time and put something out there that you guys would enjoy. So thank you to the couple of users who suggested that, and I guess we'll move on to the next question now. I've had multiple people ask me if I am going to get one of the new characters from the Thomas and Friends series, that being Phillip. And the answer to that is yes, I do plan on getting Phillip, but I don't have any idea on when I'm going to introduce him into my series, or for that matter, when I'm even going to get him. I have always been a few years behind when it comes to getting new characters, like with Connor and Caitlin, and Tale of the Brave Engines. I'm not the first person standing in line waiting for the doors to open, when they are released. So I'm sure I'll get Phillip sometime here soon. He probably won't be in this next collection video, but let me assure you guys that one way or another, Phillip will end up in my collection, and hopefully we'll see him in my series eventually. Okay, so our next question comes from Aaron, and he asks, can you put music from both the Thomas TV series and some movie soundtracks too? I presume he means that in my series, and the reason I don't do that is, well, there's a couple of reasons why. The big reason is to avoid copyright claims. I've already discussed this before, but in the past I've been busted for using Thomas and Friends audio from the Thomas and Friends series in my videos, even though I gave them credit. So I'm always hesitant to use other people's property, belongings, etc., and that of course would mean music. I know people want me to transition into a more professional series, using string, filming outside, pretty much doing a copy of another very famous user who also makes Thomas Wooden Railway videos. And I understand where those people are coming from, but I also want to stress that I enjoy doing my series the way I do it. And I've made some changes recently, such as the brand new characters that you are seeing on screen. Hopefully these changes will kind of freshen up my series, and so that we can kind of enjoy the videos for what they are, not necessarily what cool editing techniques and audio visual effects they contain. I hope that makes sense. But personally, I don't have a problem with the Thomas music. It's not that I don't like it, it's that I don't want to take like I said, somebody else's property and use it as my own in my own video. Hopefully that makes sense. If you have more questions, you can just leave them in the comments below. So that's my reasoning behind that. It's not that I'm stuck in the Stone Age when it comes to making Thomas Wooden Railway videos. It's that I want to respect the music that people have made before me, and I don't want to steal it from them and use it for my own personal gain. So hopefully that makes sense. The next question comes from a user named Milk Tanker Media, and pretty much he asked a couple of questions, but I'll focus on the second one. And he said, do you think your series should continue the serialized pattern that it did for the past season, and would you be open to the TV series adopting a serialized format? So, very interesting question, a very good question. What he means by that is serialized means that all the episodes in a season have to do with one another, and that was certainly the case with, I'd say, part of season 11 and definitely season 12. You wanted to watch the episodes in order, and you needed to know what was going on in order to understand the plot. And I had a lot of fun doing that, but at the same time, that's also very dangerous, because sometimes you get these viewers who only come in and watch certain episodes, and then they're really confused and lost, and they don't understand what's going on because they haven't seen the last couple of episodes. So I think I will continue that in my series, but hopefully it won't be as big or drastic as it was in the previous season. I would like to find the perfect balance of making a serialized series where the episodes have to do with each other and there's some overarching story themes, but at the same time the episodes themselves are still entertaining and you can watch them in any order and still feel like you know what's going on for the most part. Regarding the TV series doing that, I think that would be really difficult to pull off because the episodes are released out of order. The UK gets the episodes first sometimes, and then the US gets them, and there's the whole issue of spoilers and, people posting the spoilers. I mean, we're already seeing it with The Great Race, and I think it would just be really hard to do that. I mean, they would have to plan the season out completely from scratch, make sure everything's in order, and then, not to mention, the animation that goes in there, and then voice acting. Overall, it would be a lot of work, and I presume the people over at Hit Entertainment and Mattel already have a ton of work on their hands. So while I think it would be a very cool idea, and it would definitely elevate the series, as far as that becoming a reality, I don't think that's going to happen, simply because it would just be way too complicated. And then you also get those younger TV viewers who wouldn't know what was going on, and I'm sure they would be very confused. So hopefully that makes sense. That's a great question, Milk Tanker Media. Thanks for asking. And with all these questions, if you guys want to put your opinions and thoughts in the comments below, feel free to do that. I'm always interested in hearing what you guys have to say. So yeah, feel free to do that. Let me know what you guys think about that. All right, we are moving right along in this Q&A video. Next question comes from Jacob. He asks a few questions. I'm going to just focus on one. And he asks, if you can make a wooden model of one character, who would it be? Now, a couple of years ago, this would actually be kind of a tricky question because it seemed as though most of the characters who were worthy of getting a model had one. Well, for some reason, we are still struggling to get Wooden Railway versions of Rex, the small engine. I would love to see updated versions of Daisy and Donald and Douglas, especially since all of them appeared in Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure. I was really hoping we would get those Wooden Railway models versus some other ones such as Streamlined Emily or something like that. So there's actually a number of engines that I want to get a Wooden Railway model. Unfortunately, I have to say that, I don't know if we're ever going to get them. I don't have any ties at Mattel. I don't know the person in charge there, but if I knew them, I would definitely say, hey, this is what we want. And I know I'm not the only one who definitely really wants a Wooden Railway Rex. That would just be so cool to have a complete small railway. I'd love to see Wooden Railway versions of the other Coldy Fell characters for sure. Instead, we're getting, one-off characters from different countries around the world for this new movie that's coming out. So, I don't know. To answer the question, there would be a ton of characters that I would love to see in Wooden Railway form. Fortunately, we've already had Donald and Douglas and Daisy in the past, but then a character like Rex, I don't know if he'll ever see the light of day. He got a take-and-play model, but when it comes to Wooden Railway, you never know. So, great question, Jacob. As you guys can tell, I feel very strongly about the subject because I feel like it's an important one. You know what? We, the fans, deserve to have Wooden Railway models of our favorite characters, and unfortunately, as of right now, we aren't getting that in most of the areas. So, hopefully, we won't have to deal with this what-if question later down the road. Maybe one day we'll get all of the characters that we all desire. Wouldn't that be great, huh? Speaking of the Scottish twins, here's one of them. Donald is going to be the focus of this next question. A user named BryGuy2000, he asked a number of questions. I'm going to focus on the last one. He asked, since Eddie Redmayne voices Ryan in the TV series, do you think there will be more celebrities who will be a special guest voice for the show? Now, this is a great question because in the past, especially since we've gone over to the CGI era where all of the engines have individual voices, it is an interesting question, and I have to think so. Thomas and Friends specifically is actually a very popular TV series, and it's a very popular toy. So I would not be surprised if maybe in the future we see some more celebrity guest voices. The problem with that, however, is that unless they find another person who can do the voice exactly like them, if that actor or actress refuses to come back for more episodes or another special, then basically the character is going to have to be written out of the series. I have not watched a whole lot of the season 19 episodes, and I sincerely apologize if I'm wrong here, but I don't believe Ryan appeared. I just want to say that. I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but see, the problem with that is the actor who voices him is a very busy person, and he doesn't want to probably spend all day in the studio, recording lines for days on end just so his character can be featured in the next season of a kids show. That's not his priority. So unfortunately, I should say fortunately, it's cool that we get some high-profile people coming in and voicing the characters, whereas the normal cast of Thomas and Friends, I wouldn't go to say they're not popular or they're not famous, but they're definitely not as famous as some other actors out there. I think that's fair to say. So the good thing is when, you know, we do have celebrity voice guests, they're usually fantastic. They do a great job. The problem with that is they're very unlikely to stay on for a long time, you know, because they have other commitments they want to focus on. So although I think it is a great idea, I think it's very cool, and I would not be opposed to it in the future, I doubt we'll see, you know, very many high-profile actors or actresses coming in. And then here's another thing, you know, the more well-known a person is, the more they're going to want to get paid. And I'm sure Thomas and Friends has a very nice budget they can work on, but at the same time, they're probably not going to want to, you know, bring out a ton of money just to get this one person in the studio. So food for thought. Definitely know what you guys, or definitely let me know what you guys think on that. It's a very interesting topic. I would not be opposed to it at all, but I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know what you guys think about that. And here's the other Scottish twin. Douglas is going to be the focus for this next question. And a lot of people asked a question regarding custom engines, both regarding from the Thomas Wooden Railway website, and then also, for example, taking a model of Douglas and turning it into another character. So let me address both of these. I recently did a Thomas Wooden Railway discussion on the custom engines, so you guys kind of know what I'm thinking about doing there. So I won't really cover that in this video. Basically, I don't have any plans to introduce the My Custom engines from the Thomas Wooden Railway website into my series as of right now. I actually want to do a second series based on those characters, but when that's going to happen, I don't really know. Now, regarding, you know, turning other Thomas Wooden Railway models into new characters, personally, I've never been a huge fan of that. I don't mind seeing other people do that. It's actually really cool to see what people can come up with, but I don't have any desire to go out and buy some paint and totally, you know, completely transform these wooden railway models you see in front of you. That's just not my forte. I've never really been interested in that. And I'll kind of leave that for other people to do. I'm not opposed to it by any means, but for right now, I think I'll just stick with the normal characters that Mattel gives us. Alright, let's move on to the next question, and this one comes from James, and he asks, what made you want to create your series? Well, it's actually kind of an interesting story. I've told it a few times, and I don't mind telling it again because I get this question a lot, but I first started watching Thomas Wooden Railway videos on YouTube in the summer of 2007, so about a year before I made my very first account. And at the time, there were only a couple of users making videos, but I watched all their videos and I just was seeing what they were doing, and it, you know, making a series seemed really cool. I mean, you know, you have certain boundaries, meaning, you know, you have to use, for the most part, you have to use, you know, Thomas Wooden Railway engines and characters and such, but then there was also a lot of freedom associated with that. And I've always been the type of person to want to go out and, you know, do stuff like that. So making a series really appealed to me. And then, but the reason I didn't start making videos sooner is because I wanted to get everything in order. I wanted to make a game plan, you know, and make sure that when I did start a series, I was going to be able to continue it for a while. So that's why I didn't start making videos until 2008. And then by the time I made an account and started uploading, all of those people that I just described who were making videos, I mean, there were about 4 core members, and they all uploaded a ton of content in the summer of 2007. And when 2008 rolled around, none of them were really doing anything anymore. The Thomas Wooden Railway part of YouTube, I mean, I guess you could say it was dead. Nobody was really uploading anything. So I got really fortunate because when I started uploading my series, there weren't a whole lot of other people doing it at the same time. And then another reason why I wanted to create my series was because at the time, the Thomas and Friends TV series was kind of going down a hill. The characters that, you know, I'd grown up with and gotten to know really well, they were all changing. You know, the TV series was stuck in this kind of awkward phase where, you know, they were pandering to the lowest common denominator and, you know, trying to make these episodes over simplified and over dramatic, and it just wasn't appealing anymore. So I wanted to go out and make a series, and do it my way, the way I thought the TV series should have done it. And so that was really the foundation and the basis of why I wanted to create a series. For one part, I saw other people doing it in the past and thought it was cool, and then at the same time, the TV series just wasn't any good in my opinion, and I kind of wanted to change that. All right, I have another question here. It comes from Jace, and he asks, out of all the Thomas and Friends movies that have been released, which one do you like the most? I guess the one I like the most would be, I'd have to say Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure. I'm not just hopping on the bandwagon here and going with the most recent movie that was released. I really enjoyed that movie. I felt like it was the perfect blend of both classic characters coming back, such as, Donald and Douglas. We got to see some new characters, such as Ryan and Skiff. And then we also got to see, a sort of reintroduction of some characters, and that would be the small engines, because they were in the Railway series but hadn't made an appearance in the TV series yet. And I really enjoyed the plot. There wasn't a moment in the movie where I felt like this is too fast-paced, this is too slow-paced. I overall just thought it was a fantastic movie, and I was just completely blown away when I saw it. I grew up watching Thomas and the Magic Railroad nonstop as a kid, so I know it gets panned today, but I always have liked Thomas and the Magic Railroad. I more consider it as like an interpretation of the series rather than it's like a canon movie. And when you watch it with that point of view, not as like this is what happened, but more of the mindset of this is what could happen if these things came up, I really like Thomas and the Magic Railroad. And before Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure, I would have to say that King of the Railway would be my favorite. I also enjoyed that movie a lot. I'm a big fan of The Adventure Begins, but not as much as I'd say Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure or King of the Railway for that matter. But for a while there, the movies weren't doing too well, and then all of a sudden they've just been cranking out some really good ones lately. So to answer your question, my favorite Thomas and Friends movie would be Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure. Let me know what your guys' favorite movie is in the comments below. Alright, the next question comes from Dylan, and he asks, what tips would you give for a Thomas Wooden Railway series? Dylan, thanks for asking this question. I enjoy letting people know what they're getting into, so to speak. A Thomas Wooden Railway series can be very fun, it can be very rewarding, but at the same time it does require a lot of hard work, and you definitely need a vision, so to speak. You need to know where you want your series to go. It's really fun to just create episodes, here and there and have a good time, but I guess my recommendation would be to try and, find a certain theme or pattern that you want to do your episodes in. Along those lines, my first piece of advice would be to not give up right away. I see a ton of people message me saying, I'm starting a Thomas Wooden Railway series, be sure to check it out, and then I go and click on their channel and they've uploaded like 2 episodes, and those episodes were uploaded like 6 months ago, and so they've given up already. And so my recommendation would be, don't give up right away just when it gets hard, or for some reason you don't get the views that you're wanting to, or something like that. Just stick with it for a while. Your Thomas Wooden Railway series isn't going to take off just when you upload the first episode. If you really want it to succeed, you're going to have to stick with it. And you'll notice with other people's series, the reason that they are, still around and have a good series is because they didn't give up. If they gave up, well, then we wouldn't be talking about them. So, number 1, don't give up right away. And number 2, try to find something that makes your series original or different from others. And try to key into that. And I'm sure, whatever you decide is different, people are going to like it, because there are a lot of Thomas Wooden Railway series out there. And for a while, especially a couple of years ago, people were just creating series after series, and they were just copying each other. So it was basically the same thing being uploaded on 10 different channels or something like that. So those would be my recommendations. Like I said, making a series can be really fun, but you just have to stick with it for sure. You can't give up right away. All right, our next question is, who do you think are the most underrated and overrated characters in the Railway series and TV series? And that was suggested by the user Sodor or Bust. Underrated for sure would be this character that you see right in front of you. I've always liked Daisy, and I would love to see more of her in the TV series for sure. Overrated in the TV series, again, this is just my opinion, but I think Emily is very overrated. Don't understand what all the fascination there is. In terms of the Railway series, man, I can't think of anything off the top of my head because I firmly believe that those books were so well balanced. We had Thomas as a main character here and there, but it wasn't every single story is about Thomas. So I will give that to the Reverend W. Awdry and his son Christopher. When they were writing stories for the Railway series, they were always very balanced. In terms of, any underrated characters, I mean, I really could name any of the one-off characters such as Hank or Neville or even Dennis, just because I'd love to see more of them. I don't know if that would make them underrated, but anyway, it's still a good question. I know a lot of people have very strong opinions about who they want to see in the series and who they don't, and although I feel that sometimes, overall, I'm kind of content with who's in the series right now. They've brought back some of the classic characters, which makes me happy. So, great question, and let's move on to the next one. This next one is a very simple question, but that's perfectly fine. Jack asks, Arthur or Murdoch? And as you can tell by the character on your screen, out of those two, I probably prefer Murdoch. As I said before, I'm a big fan of kind of the quieter engines, or the older ones who give, the wise advice here and there. And Murdoch always came across as one of those characters who knew what he was doing, but he wasn't very boastful about it. He just wanted to get the job done. So I've always liked Murdoch. In fact, I think this was an earlier question. If I had to choose somebody to return in CGI, I would not be opposed to Murdoch at all. I think he's a great character. But let me stress that I have nothing against Arthur either. It's just out of the two, I probably prefer Murdoch. So I had a couple of people ask me the same question, and pretty much what they were trying to say is, what are your thoughts on the Andrew Brenner era of Thomas and Friends? And for those who don't know, Andrew Brenner, for many, many years ago, wrote some, I believe might have been magazine stories. I apologize if that's wrong. But he wrote a bunch of companion stories for Thomas and Friends, and then a bunch of them actually ended up being adapted into the TV series. I want to say around seasons 3 and 4 that happened. And so basically, Andrew Brenner knows the series really well, is what I'm trying to say. And I believe Mr. Brenner has completely revitalized and rejuvenated the series. For a while there, the series was almost unwatchable, in my opinion. I'd say from about, right when the CGI stuff started to kick in, it started to go downhill really fast. But even before that, the series was kind of bad. I would have to say probably the worst era of Thomas and Friends was right before Andrew Brenner stepped in and kind of made everything right. He knows the characters, he knows the settings, and overall he's just done a fantastic job at completely he's had to go back to the drawing board. He's had to almost start everything over from scratch. And he's done a fantastic job, and I can't praise him enough because I truly have. He has saved Thomas and Friends without a doubt. For a while there, the series was going down kind of a dark path, and it was, like I think the perfect word for Thomas and Friends at the time was unwatchable. It was so geared towards children that it made us older fans just feel like, we weren't even watching the same series that we grew up with. So Andrew Brenner, as I've said, has done a fantastic job. Can't praise him enough. But at the same time, it's not like he's totally come in and changed everything. He hasn't done that. It's not like he got rid of all the characters. that have been introduced, in the past couple of years. He's kept them, but then he's also brought back some of the characters that we older fans have enjoyed. So he's really done the best of both worlds, is the best way I can put it. And I'm a big fan of his work, and I hope he stays on the show for a long time. Another question that was asked quite frequently was whether I would ever use voice actors in my series. And let me say that I am not against using voice actors at all. It's not like I have some moral thing against it. But it's just, in terms of my series, I have always been the one person doing the narration and moving the characters. And I just like to keep it that way. I understand that there are a lot of other Thomas Wooden Railway series out there who do use voice actors. And when I watch those episodes, it's very refreshing, I would say, because I will admit it does get stale listening to the same voice over and over. But in terms of my series, I just like to keep things simple. I find trying to send out lines and then get recordings back, and then having to maybe even have people re-record things because their mic was all fuzzy. I don't know. I just don't want to even deal with that. It's much easier to just rely on my voice instead. At the same time, I'm not ruling it out of the picture for the future. Who knows? I may hit a certain season, or maybe I finally come to my senses and realize that a voice cast would be really, really cool. So, like I said, not against it, but in terms of the current series that I'm doing right now, for the foreseeable future, I plan on just using me. I hope that doesn't drive anybody away from my videos. In fact, it's more of just a tribute to what the Thomas and Friends TV series used to be. It used to just be one person doing the narration and the sound effects even from time to time. So almost as a tribute to that, and then just because that's the way I started my series, I'm going to keep it that way for the foreseeable future. If you're still watching this video, we're about halfway through this Q&A. I want to thank you all very much for watching. The next question comes from a user named Mayo Hosko. And pretty much what Mayo is saying is, why does it take so long for new episodes to come out, whereas from seasons 1 to 7 of my series, episodes came out much more quicker, at a much more rapid pace? And I get this question a lot because people are always wondering where the next episode is, and they don't understand, why is it taking so long and such. And so I would like to just explain a few things for those who don't know. So when I was making the early seasons of my series, specifically, like Mayo said, from seasons 1 to 7, I was doing it in a very relaxed manner, a very unprofessional manner, and just having fun with it. And so whenever you start something, you always have a bounty of fresh ideas. And that was the case when I started my series. I had so many ideas that I could literally do multiple seasons in a very short time span because I didn't have to think of ideas. So, for example, the first 6 seasons of my series were originally uploaded to YouTube from June 2008 to about January 2009. Which is very, very fast. I mean, I can't even get through a full season nowadays at that pace. And the reason why that is because I am trying to put more effort into my videos. Back in 2008, it's not as though YouTube was lazy, but the bar was set very low. And now you have all of these YouTubers, not even in the Thomas Wooden Railway or Thomas and Friends part of YouTube, who just make outstanding masterpieces and they upload them to the website. And so the bar has been raised on YouTube over the past couple of years, and I want my videos to reflect that as well. So I try to take more time on each of my videos. For example, I used to not write a script for my episodes. I would just do it from memory, and I would do the episodes in one take, as you guys who have watched my older seasons know. And then around season 8, I started writing a script, and I started, trying to do it in a more professional manner. Then I went back to my old ways in seasons 9 and 10, even though, I tried to use just some other tricks here and there. But ever since season 11, every single episode has been fully scripted. You know, I've had a voiceover narration going on, and I'm just trying to make the episodes more cleaner and concise because at about season 10, the episodes were getting really long. They were, you know, getting above the 10-minute mark into the 15-minute range, and I think my longest episode was like 20 or 21 minutes, and that was really, really long. So, and when I went back and watched the episode, I realized, you know, what I'm trying to say in this episode could be reduced down to half the time. You know, this 20-minute episode could probably be done in 8 or 9 minutes. So that was when I realized, oh, you know, I'm blabbling too much, kind of like I am right now. You know, I don't have a script in front of me. I'm just saying whatever comes to my mind. Unfortunately, that style of video work and narration-wise doesn't really fly on YouTube today because it's become much more professional. So hopefully my videos are a reflection of that. And honestly, I just hope you enjoy the new episodes more because I feel like they are more interesting. Whereas if I go back and watch my older episodes, I'm thinking, oh man, you know, this is taking forever just to get to this one plot point or whatever. So hopefully you guys can understand that, you know, it's not just because, you know, I don't want to make episodes anymore, but the truth is that I'm trying to put more work into them. And at the same time, I am a lot busier nowadays than I was, you know, 7 or 8 years ago. So those two factors combined equals less episodes in the same amount of time as before. But hopefully the episodes today are more entertaining and they keep your attention longer and such. So hopefully that makes sense. Overall, I'm always trying to improve the quality of my YouTube videos, and hopefully my recent seasons have been an example of that. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, the next question comes from Green5 Studios, and he or she asks, out of all the layouts you've made, which one are you most proud of? That is a very tough decision because I feel like I've made a lot of good layouts, I've made a lot of bad layouts at the same time, but the one that always, I guess, sticks in my mind is the Season 11 layout. Even though I only used it for that one season, I remember when I finished that layout, I just kind of looked at it and I said, wow, this is actually really cool. You know, the Season 12 layout, I wasn't too big of a fan of, but you guys seem to really like that one, so that made me feel good. And then, of course, I'm always partial to the very first layout I ever made for YouTube, which was the Season 1, Season 2 layout. It's kind of unfortunate. I've never told anyone this before. But if you guys have watched my older episodes, I used to switch layouts all the time. I mean, it's kind of hard to believe I would just be able to tear up a layout and put a new one down in practically no time at all, and now it takes me a really long time to say the least. But I built one layout one time that I was going to use for my series. I can't remember exactly when. It might have been around Season 6. And I built it, and it was probably one of my best layouts ever. And then shortly after was when my original account was hacked, and so I never actually got to use that layout in an episode because then I had to pretty much start over. I was going to re-upload all my old episodes, etc. So I don't really remember like what characteristics that layout had. I just remember it flowed really nicely, and so that layout would probably be up there as well in terms of one of my favorites. But out of the layouts that you guys have seen, probably either the Season 11 layout or the Season 1 and 2 layout. I'd even throw in maybe like the Season 5 layout. Any layout that I used for a while, such as the Season 9 and 10 layout. I always like those layouts because I do enjoy keeping layouts for as long as possible. But not to spoil anything, I'm really hoping this next layout that I build for Season 13 is going to blow away anything you guys have ever seen before. I have a ton of new destinations that I need to incorporate, so hopefully it'll be my biggest layout ever, and hopefully it will be one of my best layouts ever as well. The next question comes from a user named CGI Ben, and he asks, what made you decide to use music in Claw of the Law? Well, I touched on this earlier when I was talking about, I think it was my favorite project I've ever done, and I wanted to do something I'd never done before, and music was obviously a part of that. So the problem was trying to find music that I could use, because for those who don't know, the Thomas and Friends music is actually owned by somebody, so I had to go out and find what they called royalty-free music where it's still made by a person, but they don't own it in a sense. They release it to the public domain for free use, essentially. So once I found out about this royalty-free music many, many years before I ever decided to do Claw of the Law, I knew that's what I was going to have to use if I ever wanted to do one of, these big movies that I had in mind. So music was going to be essential to the movie. If I really wanted to make Claw of the Law stand out and pretty much be, I guess my masterpiece up until that point, I needed, the wow factor, and I needed music. So that's what made me want to use music. I'm very happy I did. During the editing process, I was kind of conflicted sometimes. I was thinking, should I use music? Should I not? I've never used music in any one of these movies before, and I was thinking, what if people don't like it? But for the most part, it seems as though it was kind of a nice change from what I gathered from your guys' reactions. So I'm very happy I did that. It was definitely a leap of faith because I didn't know if it was going to work or not, but overall it ended up working out for the better for sure. Okay, this next question is a fun one. I get asked this all the time. What is your favorite episode from your series? This was asked by a couple of people. It's always hard to choose, considering, I have a lot of episodes to choose from. The ones that stand out in my mind are The Trouble with Trucks, simply just because it was the first episode, and the camera work was really bad, the audio was even worse, but it still kind of holds like a special place in my heart, I would say, because it is a very important episode in terms of the rest of my series, because the rest of the series completely depends on that one episode. In recent memory, I enjoyed filming a lot of the episodes in season 11 for some reason. Don't know why. I think especially towards the end of the season when we were leading up to, this big, almost like a confrontation, but we didn't really know what it was about. I had a lot of fun filming season 12 as well, but filming for that was just really broken up. It took me forever to film that season. Hopefully that won't be the case this time. I had a lot of fun filming season 8 episodes as well for some reason. Probably, to answer the question, I guess my favorite episode would be one called Runaway at the Runway. Just something really kind of cool about that episode. There's some Railway series references, and it's kind of really is like your classic Thomas and Friends episode where Duck's pretty much like, oh, this won't happen to me, and then exactly what he says won't happen to him ends up happening. So that was a fun episode to film because there was a big crash, and honestly any episode with a big crash is always fun to film because it is a lot of fun trying to put all these things together and make a huge mess at the end of it. So great question, and let's move on to the next one. Alright, the next question comes from a user named Thomas Metal Take and Play, and he or she asks, what have you thought of Thomas and Friends since Hero of the Rails? Great question, and I'd be happy to answer it. For a while there, right after Hero of the Rails, the whole Thomas community was really amazed by what they could do in CGI, and then I'd say, from Misty Island Rescue, even to like Blue Mountain Mystery, the series, it didn't really get any better than where it was before. It just kind of distracted everybody. Before, in that last part of the model era there, people were just, all of the people I was hanging out on YouTube at the time, we were just, livid that the episodes were, that the writing was terrible, and how I guess the big complaint was that all of the crashes were always in slow motion. We didn't understand why. And so, when Hero of the Rails came out, people were like, ooh, it's nice and new, it's CGI, looks really great. And then that all that newness kind of faded away, and then we realized, wait, this isn't any better than what we had before. If anything, it's worse, because, with the models, you had to at least abide by railway rules, because they were indeed models. And in the CGI series, all of a sudden, we got trains going everywhere, we got bridges collapsing, and, I thought Misty Island Rescue was just the worst Thomas movie ever, because they could have never have done that with the models, you know. They could never have made Misty Island Rescue with the models because it'd be way too much money to build all of these new sets just for a movie, but with CGI they could. So for a while there, to answer the question, I wasn't that impressed. And then ever since about Blue Mountain Mystery, you know, that era to about King of the Railway, things got really good. Things turned around, and I was actually very surprised. You know, I wasn't hoping we would be stuck, excuse me, in this funk of, you know, bad Thomas and Friends episodes till the end of time, but that seemed to be the way it was going. But fortunately, that wasn't the case. Things have turned around since about King of the Railway. I think the series is doing great. And so basically, you know, it took a little bit. It took a while. It took a few years and a few seasons, but I think we finally gotten to the point where the TV series is finally good again and we can enjoy the episodes. All right, we're nearing the end of this Q&A, but I still have a couple of more questions to go through. Multi-Green Thunder asked a number of questions. I'm just going to focus on one here. And he asked, what do you think of the current state of the TWRC, which is the Thomas Wooden Railway community? Do you think we have surpassed 2008 as the best time for the community? So what he means by that is YouTube users who commonly make Thomas Wooden Railway videos, we've kind of called ourselves the Thomas Wooden Railway community because that's what we are. And in 2008, it was very unofficial, and there were just a few of us making videos here and there, and it was honestly a really fun time because we weren't concerned about subscribers or views or what people thought of us in general, or even what the regular Thomas and Friends community thought about us. So 2008 was really fun. And then slowly but surely as the years went on, we started becoming more inactive, myself included. So new users would come in, but then they'd leave right away, and really we weren't going anywhere. You know, it's like we were spinning our wheels, but we weren't going anywhere at all. So the current state of the Thomas Wooden Railway community, in my opinion, is that it is probably the best it has ever been. I honestly believe that we have a ton of users making a ton of content. We have collaborations and crossovers galore. I mean, there are certain users out there who are just traveling. I mean, they're crossing country borders to go and meet up with people and film reviews and all this stuff. And I mean, it really is a great time to be a Thomas Wooden Railway fan, I will say. Have we surpassed 2008 as the best time? I don't know. Things were so much different back then. It's like comparing apples to oranges, I guess. But I will say that right now we are doing just fine, and I encourage anybody out there, if you've ever had the slightest interest of making Thomas Wooden Railway videos, it doesn't even have to be a series. You know, I mean, it doesn't even have to be reviews. You know, if you just want to come up with something and see if it works or not, feel free to upload a video and let us know. We'll be happy to check it out. I just want to let people know that, because I think most of the time some people get a little bit scared. You know, the Thomas Wooden Railway community can be so imposing, you know, the users itself and then just the name, and I don't want people to think that. I just, you know, want people to understand that, you know, we're just a group of YouTubers who like to hang out on YouTube and then like on other sites such as Twitter. And we're all really friendly. We want to get to know you. And so the current state of the Thomas Wooden Railway community is excellent. We're really going places. And the best part is I can't wait to see what the future holds and see what else we can accomplish in the Thomas Wooden Railway community in the next couple of years. Next question is from a user named LBS, and he or she asks, 7 years ago, did you think you would get this far on YouTube? And the very simple answer is no, I did not. What has happened over the past couple of years has just been simply incredible. I like to picture the Thomas Wooden Railway community and users like myself as underdogs, because we make content for videos that is not popular at all. It's for a very specific audience out there. And so to just have the viewership that we all have, and to have this great community, and to be friends with all of these different people, it's really inspiring and it's so cool. 7 years ago, I was just thinking about making episodes and having a good time, and now it's grown into something so much bigger, which is great. But it's so interesting how just, you know, kind of a random idea to just one day, You know, I was thinking, maybe I'll start a Thomas Wooden Railway series, you know, and it's gone to this, you know. It is really incredible. I never, it's so cliche, but never in my wildest dreams could I have predicted that it'd be this cool. And I'd have such a great time with all these wonderful people. So without a doubt, I would have thought in a million years that I'd ever get this far, or you know, get to see, you know, even things such as what's going on the Thomas and Friends channel with the Creator Collective, just how much things have grown over the past couple of years. It really is incredible to see everybody's coming together, and we're just trying to have a good time and make videos, and hopefully you and guys out there are enjoying the content as well. All right, everyone, we're down to our final question, and this one is from a user named GameDestroyer07, and this person asks, how many seasons will you make until you stop making videos? Now, it's interesting because maybe some of you guys don't know, but I've left YouTube numerous times. You know, some intentionally, some unintentionally, but for the past couple of years or so, I've been pretty consistent in my uploads. And even recently, you know, I went through a period of like, you know, 2 weeks where I almost uploaded a video every single day. And that was really cool to be so active again. And as far as the future goes, I really don't know. Let's just say, you know, I don't want to say this in a sense, because if I don't make it here, it might make some people sad, but I have video ideas planned out through season 15 of my series, which is really weird to think about, by the way. So I definitely have content that I want to keep on uploading. Whether I'll make it there or not, who knows, but regardless, I want to thank you all so much for being such great fans. And you are the reason that I make these videos, and I hope you enjoy the content, and I greatly appreciate your support. So everybody, that's the end of this Q&A. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you submitted a question and it wasn't answered, that doesn't mean it was a bad question. I received so many questions for this video. I mean, I couldn't even keep track of them. And so congratulations to the people who did, and if yours didn't make the cut, please don't feel bad about it. You know, I wasn't playing favorites or anything like that. I just want to thank you all so much for watching this very long video. You know, long videos like this are really hard to sit through, and I greatly appreciate you doing so. And you've even gotten to see some of the new characters that I'll be using this season, and even some of the new destinations that will be making appearance. So if you've lasted this long, you've kind of gotten a little special treat, and I greatly appreciate you all sticking through this long video. I want to let you guys know that you guys are literally the best fans in the world. Every day I am so thankful that I have a great group of people behind me supporting me, and I want to thank you all so much. And every comment that gets posted on my videos, even if I don't reply to it, I see it. And I want to thank you all so much for your continued support over the past 8 years. It's been a blast, and I want to continue doing it for a very long time. So in response to the question, by the way, I don't know when I'll stop making videos. Hopefully it's not anytime soon, though. Alright, everybody, thank you so much for watching this video. The next upload that I'm going to make to my channel is going to be an updated collection video, which I know a lot of you are excited for. Then I'll be uploading a layout video for season 13, and then you guessed it, we're going to move right into the new season. It's going to be awesome, guys. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.